So for the next stage, we'll log back into our second instance of Windows 10, which is GRC PC2. So if you remember from the instruction here, it says you need to create 20 gig two-way mirror storage on GRC PC1. Since PC1 is not currently on, we'll first create a parity storage on PC2. So create the parity storage here and assign the drive letter to drive E. We'll name the storage space user data. So I'm going to take you through the process of doing this. Then later on we'll go to PC1 and create a two-way mirror. So right now we'll first create a parity storage space before we move on to other things. So I'm going to click on this particular space. Let's maximize and show you how to do it. Okay. Some of the information is blocked. Let me just drag this out so that you can see the screen better. So the first thing you need to do is you need to create virtual hard disks in order to create our parity. So for a parity storage space, you need 3 hard disks together to create a parity storage. So we need to first create the virtual hard disks that we would combine to create the parity. So first go to the lower left corner of your PC2 and type in computer management. So once you type in computer management, we'll come into this space. This is where you get the information about the disk that we're about to use. So now that it has loaded, ensure that you click on Disk Management under the Storage section. Click on it once and wait for this space to load. This is very important. So you can see this is the 100 gig space that was created for PC2 at the beginning of this process. Now we need to create 3 small virtual hard disks of 20 gig size. They have to be of equal sizes when you combine them. So in order to do this, you go to the top left corner of your computer management and you click on Action. Click on this button called Action. Select Create VHD. And now we'll browse to the place where we want to keep our virtual hard disks, the newly created ones. So click Browse. So you notice you can either put it on your Documents folder within PC2, but for me, I would like for everything to be together. Just in case in future activities we need to put other things within the document folder, I won't want it to mix up. So you might want to do the same thing. So while you're within this space, you can right click and create a new folder. Right click and create a new folder and call it Storage VHDs. Right? So you've double clicked on this, so we're within the newly created folder. Ensure that you're within the newly created folder. So our first virtual hard disk, I'll just name it I'll name it first. You can choose whatever sequence you want to use, or you can choose one. So I'm just going to type in 1 here, so you know what it is. The virtual hard disk size should be 20 gig. Type 20 here and select the gigabyte size and make it dynamically expanding virtual hard disk. So choose the second option here and click OK. So our newly created disk will appear here. So you notice it has appeared here, right? So for some people on your own PC, it might write formatting, then it will bring out a dialog box that says start format or start formatting. Click yes and OK and ensure that you format, and once it's done and you click OK, close that dialog box. So for some PCs it will do it automatically, for some others it might not do it automatically. So if it brings up the format dialog box, click yes or OK to format it. So we'll create three more instances of the virtual hard disk. The reason why we're creating 4 is because I know there is another task whereby you need 1 more virtual hard disk, but for the parity you need 3. So the fourth one we're going to create will be used later on, and go through the instructions and read where that will be used. But first, let's create 3 more. So you click action again, click create VHD. So we'll browse into folder, a storage folder called the virtual hard disk 2. I'll type 2, the word 2 in here and click save. Make it 20 gigabytes, gig, dynamically expanding, click OK. So you note it's in here. We'll create a third one, action, create VHD, browse into the space, type the word 3, save, type 20, make it a gig, make it dynamically expanding, then click OK. Never forget to put to make it dynamically expanding. Then we'll click and we'll create the last one. Browse into the space, type 4, click save, 20 gigabytes, dynamically expanding, then click OK. So once you've created all this, you notice it says disk unknown, not initialized. So we need to initialize the 4 disks that we've created, that is, make them online, because you can see this is online, it is visible. So we'll right click, go into where you have the label for disk 1, right click in the space and click the first option that says initialize disk. Okay, so it will select the 4 hard disks, virtual hard disks that we've just created to initialize. Then for the partition style, depending on your computer, you might have the master boot record selected by default or the GUID. If either of the two is selected by default, leave it as it is and click OK. So just ignore this. This is updating some things that we shouldn't touch. So you notice now that you have your virtual hard disks are online, but in this space it still says that it's unallocated space, right? So come into the space for the first disk, right click in here and click new simple volume, click next, don't touch anything. You notice it assigned the drive letter E to disk 1, click next, and now we want to add a label next to our virtual hard disk, which will be visible to people. So I'm still going to give it the word, the label 1, then enable file and folder compression. You notice the file system is NTFS, leave it as it is. Click next and finish. So now this will be you'll be able to use this space. It's visible. So this is where I was talking about the formatting process, where you saw the word formatting. So for some people's computers, it's going to bring up a pop-up dialog box where you would have to manually do the formatting and click OK or yes. So you do the same process to allocate the spaces for the remaining disks. So you come into the space for disk 2, you right click in here, simple volume, next, click next, click next. So I'll change the label. I want it to show the word 2 and enable file and folder compression. Click next and finish. So to do the formatting also, and let that process go through. So now I'm going to create the third one. Right click, new simple volume, next, next, next. Change the volume name to 3. Enable file, folder compression, next. Click finish. So for the third one also, for the fourth one also, we're going to do the same thing. Next, next, next. I'll name it 4. I'll enable file and folder compression. Click next, finish. So now we have 4 drives that we've partitioned. So in order to see what we've just created, click on your file explorer. This is important for what we have to do. You need to be able to see what we've just done. And click this PC. And now you note these are the virtual hard disks that we just created. So now for the parity drive on PC2, you need to create a parity drive. You will combine 1, 2, 3 to create the parity drive. So take note of this, minimize that. You can close this. We don't need to see this at the moment. You can take a screenshot of those places if you want to, according to the assignments. So next we'll go into our control panel to actually create the parity drive, to combine the disks together. So next you type storage spaces, storage. So you find the space that says storage spaces, click on storage spaces. Next you click create a new pool on storage space. To give you a prompt, yes, so this is a prompt, you click yes. And you select the disks that we want to combine. So disk 1, 2, and 3. Sometimes it doesn't arrange it in the right manner. So just take notes to look at the labels right here. So we're combining 3 for our parity storage. Click create pool. So I noted during our last lab session, someone was getting an error at this point. And I can't remember the reason why the person got the error. So please note if you have an error on your side, we'll try to find a solution to it. So the assignment question says you have to name the drive user data. Ensure that the drive letter assigned to it is E. So we have drive E, which is assigned here, the file system. So by default, the resiliency type is usually set on two-way mirror, but we need to create a parity. So in order to create a parity, you select a drop down. You select the drop down here and you click parity. So it gives you different options, but we